We welcome you to another edition of Good Morning Southern Territory. My name is Major Ray Begley, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this special edition on chaplaincy. Throughout the Salvation Army history, chaplaincy has played an important part in the Salvation Army's ministry. And even today, I think of prison chaplaincy, airport chaplaincy, and we're going to be speaking to Major Winton Knop in a few moments' time. We have chaplaincy in courts and prisons, and my special guest this morning is Major Janette Shepherd, who is the State Coordinator for Courts and Prisons. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Just give me a kind of little overview of what you do and your life. Just tell me about it.
Well,
Up to do with courts and prisons,
oh,
that is.
Right. Well, I like to say to people that we've got the largest parish in the state, because when you take into account that we care for 4,500 plus prisoners in the system, plus their families, plus staff, also the court clients who come through the doors of every court in the state, plus court staff, legal people. It's a very, very large very, very large group of people.
Yes.
And we're basically there for whoever needs us.
Okay, so if someone wants the Salvation Army or advice or support, how does that happen? How does that process happen within a court setting?
Well, within a court, quite often people will be directed, say, for instance, by a magistrate, or if the county court and Supreme Court, maybe the judge will ask that someone speak to the Salvation Army or talk about some things. Because of the number of supports and programs and assistance we're able to provide, we do some really practical stuff. And,
right.
And our
Give me an example.
Well, finding accommodation so someone can get bailed. Otherwise, they remain in custody.
Yes, exactly.
Positive lifestyle program, which actually arose out of the Salvation Army's court and prison work in Canada. And we've been doing this.
Just explain positive life.
Okay.
So that's really enhancing someone's
well, it's to do with issues like self-esteem.
Yes.
And quite often some of the attitudes and behaviours and aspects of a person's life that may be underlying and may have contributed to that person's offending behaviour, so that they don't understand they've got problems with anger, for instance, but they're not aware of it. Or they may have issues of depression or loss and grief that they've never really addressed or never thought about. And so it opens a conversation. In when needed, we can actually refer them then to someone for some specialist work in those areas.
Okay.
But it's a really good self-esteem, personal growth, self-exploration.
Right. Now, the Salvation Army has had an important part in courts and prison ministry for many, many years. Just give us a little bit of the background history. It's incredible, really.
We're quite excited because, first of all, I mean, if you read in Darkest England, The Way Out, there's a copy of a letter that was actually addressed by the then Superintendent of the Colony of Victoria, commending the work of the Salvation Army's court and prison chaplains to whoever needed it. And it was signed by Alfred Deakin, who later became one of the first Prime Ministers of Australia. And it actually acknowledges the good work that the court chaplains were doing, the Salvation Army officers who attended the courts, who also visited the guys coming out of prison, who actually helped break the cycle of reoffending, address some of the basic needs of people in a way that was, which was fantastic. And so the Salvation Army's worldwide social intentional ministry, I guess, if you like to put it that way, actually has its roots here in Victoria, in the work of our courts and prison chaplains. It's incredible historically, and there's a nice little plaque in Argyle Square South in Carlton that actually
celebrates that.
Stuck on a wall there. But the roots of our worldwide social ministries began with the work of our chaplains here in Melbourne.
Now, we try to be as transparent as we can. We want to give our viewers as much information.
Sure.
How is your ministry within courts and prisons funded? So do we get external funding, government funding? Just talk to us about the funding.
We receive, we have contracts for prison ministry with Corrections Victoria, which is state government.
Yes.
And we also have, and that funds chaplaincy and our welfare work, which the Salvation Army uniquely offers as chaplains to chaplaincy in prisons, per se. We also have, through that, also agreements for funding from the 2 private prisons we have in Victoria. So we receive funding again for that. In the courts, court chaplaincy and a lot of other community groups also are eligible for court funds, and that is made by application to the courts, and grants are made usually on a regular basis. And we receive donations quite often from people who are directed to do so as part of their court order, and people who are just grateful for what we do. We've had solicitors come in, every year and say, "Look, I'd like to make a contribution because you guys do a great job in assisting my clients."
That's fantastic.
It is, and of course the Salvation Army picks up the rest of it. So it's a great ministry.
Excellent. Now, you're state coordinator, which must mean that we have chaplains around the state.
We do.
Just how many officers or how many Salvation Army lay staff would be involved in court ministry?
Well, probably the best way to describe it's probably about, we've got about 15, 16 officers who are, we tend to look at our chaplains as a team of court and prison chaplains.
Yes.
So for instance, we organise training days and events on regular basis, usually on the court non-sitting days, so our chaplains are free to come.
Right.
And they all work very much together. So we have roughly about 30 people involved in court and or prison chaplaincy across the state, across the 4 divisions, with the bulk of it being in Melbourne Central.
And what does the legal profession think of you and your work and the Salvation Army's work in courts? Do they use it, value it?
Absolutely.
Well, that's really important to hear.
Oh, it is. We have great working relationships, particularly with the Victorian Legal Aid duty solicitors who are there at the courts to work for clients who need assistance. So they pick up the really hard end and the immediate stuff. Can I say we have a great working relationship with them because they're always there. But other solicitors as well, because we're able to help with assistance with accommodation, with material aid, immediate stuff, even a ticket to get somebody home from court. Because if somebody is freed or is bailed, and they haven't got the wherewithal to get home, and they jump on a tram or a train without a ticket and they get picked up for that, they suddenly breach their bail conditions. They could be locked up for something as small as a valid ticket. Assistance with referrals to our drug and alcohol services. Absolutely, we work very well with the solicitors as part of working on their bail, to perhaps get bail to work in some of our programs. We assist with finding people community work to do in some of our congregations and our thrift shops and things like that. Somebody once described our court chaplains as the glue that keeps it all together at the courts, because we're able to just immediately respond to need. We have people directed for positive lifestyle program as part of their bail conditions or as part of their court adjourned undertaking conditions. We have referrals for helping with families who are there or with victims who are there, people who need someone to sit with them in court, because it's a whole new process and quite a scary one. So it's really helpful to have a familiar face, and they see the uniform
and they feel safe.
They do. They feel absolutely safe.
Final question. As a Salvation Army officer, are you fulfilled in this appointment, which is yours?
Absolutely. I'd like to think I'm still doing this, and eventually someone will say, she's retiring, she's still doing that. I think this is the best.
Great.
This is the best appointment, and I love it, and as do all my fellow chaplains. We get into this ministry, we absolutely love it. We have cadets come out and do placements, and they say, we'd like to come and do this, and we say, go off and be a corps officer and do a few things first, and then you can have our positions when we retire. Well,
we want to say thank you for coming in, and thank you for answering all the questions.
You're welcome.
You're going to be watching a clip in the next few moments about chaplaincy, particularly about prison chaplaincy, and then we're going to be interviewing Major Winton Knop about the new role that he has taken up as an airport chaplain. See you soon.
Well, my name's Mark Creasy, and I'm the Salvation Army chaplain here at the Metropolitan Remand Centre. Certainly the general perception of prison is lock them up and throw away the key. Just understand that the guys in here are just people. They're not the monsters that a lot of them are portrayed to be. Many of them, or most of them, are just missing their families, they're missing their children, and I guess that's part of the incarceration. It's just that separation from family and friends, and it really hits home for a lot of the guys, particularly at Christmas time.
I am Major Vicky McMahon from Melbourne Children's Court. I've been here 11 years, 11 Christmases. There's a lot of families that the children are in care over Christmas. So that's a sad thing, that I think, that they don't get to interact with their kids on Christmas Day. A lot of families too don't have a history of Christmas. They've been in probably care themselves, and so they don't have the family history that makes up our Christmas. You know, the family times, the the celebration time, and so it becomes a lonely experience. And I guess that's the significant part of our Christmas party. We try and make that a positive experience for families. Last year it was at the Science Works where we introduced games and fun and a whole range of positive stuff for families to do.
One of the things that we do here, we've been doing the last couple of years, is we bring a small brass ensemble in and we walk around the yards and play Christmas carols. It's a bit like the old days when the Salvation Army used to get out in the streets and you get heckled from a few of the guys. Some of the guys come along and they take part in it. They sing and they really enjoy the time together, and it's a good opportunity just to sit down and just spend some time with each of the guys in the prison.
I get to bed probably about 5 o'clock in the morning after I've done the rounds of putting swings together and trampolines together and making Santa boots and powder through the house and all that stuff. It's just, I don't have kids of my own, and so I guess for me I have a vision of what Christmas was all about as a child. And I just want that for these kids, so that if I know a young person, a child wants, say, I don't know, last Christmas it was a DS, all she wanted was a DS, and I knew that the parent couldn't afford that, so I organised for a Rotary Club to fund that.
We also have chapel services, particular Christmas-focused chapel services, and many guys come along to that who wouldn't normally go to church. Often get asked whether they're allowed to come to a Salvation Army service, and of course the answer is yes, they're all welcome. Whether they believe or not, that's not really the important part. It's just that time of just reflecting and understanding what Christmas is really all about.
If I had a family in Frankston per se and said, I need this swing set put up, I'd like to be able to ring Frankston and say, have you got anybody that can do that? I don't know how to build a cubby house, but I had a go. That's, I guess, the practical stuff. That might stop me from going from Frankston to Melton to wherever on Christmas Eve, and I know corps are busy and families are busy, but God is our practical God, and in that, chaplaincy to me is about that practical Christianity.
We help out with prisoners' children, and we send gifts off to children, to all the prisoners' children across Victoria. And what I was able to do last year was with my local corps. Some of the senior members of the corps came alongside and helped me fill out the cards. Now, it doesn't seem like much, but as a lot of the ladies and some of the men who filled out those cards for me read the names of the children, they actually said a little prayer for them. They felt rather privileged to be able to do that, not just for me, but for the families.
People feel very much disconnected, and so the Salvation Army is about reconnecting, showing that there are people that will respect them, that will care about them, that will show an interest. What we as Christians can do, I think, is respect people, acknowledge their existence rather than walking by. Say hello, because that's the thing that our community lacks, I guess, with the people that I work with, that I see day in and day out, is that they feel that they're not respected, they're not cared for, they're not listened to, they're not loved, I guess.
These are people, and I believe God loves them regardless of what they've done. I think if we can look at them through the eyes of God and through the eyes of Jesus, that will certainly make a huge difference.
Welcome back to Good Morning Southern Territory. A few moments ago, we were speaking to Major Janette Shepherd, and now I have a second special guest, Major Winton Knop, who has just been appointed as the airport chaplain at Melbourne International Airport. What a fantastic job.
It is.
Tell us about it. How's it going?
Oh, it's going really well.
Is it?
Overwhelmingly so.
Right.
It's being positively responded to by the many thousands of staff and passengers that are coming through the airport.
Now, I was part of the negotiation to get you in there.
That's right.
And if I remember correctly, there's about 12,500 staff at the airport.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And about 2 million passengers go through the airport every year, or something incredible.
Actually, it's about 27 million.
27 million?
It's staggering, yes.
Wow.
That's the combination, obviously, of international and domestic. But,
okay.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So just tell us how it's all happened and just fill us in, because it's really exciting.
Well, there's been there was a chaplain out there many years ago, and there's been a more recent discussion from a number of local church people, and particularly from the International Association of Civil Aviation Chaplains, who their secretary lives in Melbourne and has had a vested interest to actually have chaplaincy out there. And one of the executive directors is a Christian who was keen to see chaplaincy rebirthed. And so with negotiation, and I put my hand up, and so chaplaincy's been reborn out there.
Good man. Now, the Salvation Army have chaplains, airport chaplains around the world, don't we, really?
Yes, yes.
So we're kind of well versed in this field.
We are. A real strength in both the US and the UK as far as both active and retired officers, and of course locally in Sydney we have Commissioner Verna Skinner, who's coordinates a good team of volunteer and they're retired officers who have been part of it up there. Yeah.
One of the questions I want to ask you is about the multicultural or the multi-faith aspect, because I understand that there is a prayer room.
That's correct.
Which many of the taxi drivers, the Muslim taxi drivers use.
Yes.
Have you had any kind of contact with that? Are you involved with that kind of part of the airport?
It really is, I suppose, self-functioning. The prayer room is a facility open to all users, but it's strongly, as you've said, it's used by the Muslim prayers. We're developing, my current office location is a temporary office location, and there is a refurbishment. So I'm hoping that we might have probably another what might be termed a quiet space that could be used for other denominations. That would encourage people to have, some prayer and just meditation, whatever might be appropriate for them, if they're thinking about travelling and what their needs might be. Yeah.
Do you walk miles every day?
Yes.
Because when you go to the airport, you do walk miles, but you're walking all the time. So.
Yes. Yeah. Well, today I covered Terminal 1, which is Qantas, Jetstar. Did all of the kind of out through the gates. Talked to retail staff, and then I'll cover most of the departure lounges through the course of a morning, because they're very busy, and so trying to, what's that term, be out there just available for people. And I think it's called loitering with intent, something like that.
Let me ask about your level of acceptance at the airport. I mean, you're new into this massive area. What do they think of you? What have they made of having a chaplain at the airport?
I think the response, has been nearly 100% positive. The airport is a very strong community. Lots of people have been in the airport kind of industry, airlines industry, and so there is a great affinity with that environment. And so a chaplain that comes in to build a quality of support and care there has been well received, and that flows down from management right to all the people that I work with on the ground. Kind of the traffic services, those who are customer services. It's been really quite positive.
Now, I think there's a term called airside. Is that the correct term?
Yes.
When you've got actual security pass to go airside.
That's correct.
Have you got that?
I have, yes.
And so you, with the baggage handlers and that whole... So you have access almost to the entire place?
Pretty well. It's just, probably in some of the areas of customs and immigration, I have to be very careful, and certainly don't want to be one who goes into the wrong area, because it is a huge responsibility. The ASIC pass is highly sought after as a process, and but being onto the tarmac with the safety crew, I just recently visited the Air Traffic Control Operations Centre and up into the control tower.
Gosh!
And that was really
and they're part of your flock?
They are, Air Services Australia, which is a part of those that manage the aircraft across Australia. So I'm certainly taking them under my wing, if that's what a classic statement that is. But
Without breaking any confidences, have there been any interesting stories, anything you've dealt with that have been really quite challenging already?
Well, some of, I suppose within the normal course of a pastoral role, those that I've had so far have been something of a similar nature, but dealing with a number who have come and approached me about facing this type of personal issue, a family marriage situation, which I've been able to speak into and listen very much about what they're facing and support them in that process.
And have the airport management recognised the fact that you're there?
Yes.
And the quality and so on?
Yeah, very much so. I've had the privilege of speaking with the CEO, Chris Woodruff, who's a fine gentleman and a man with great responsibilities. So I've been able to work alongside him and hear from him his passions and his hopes for the airport as far as making it a place where people are cared for, and right across the board at management level, really well received and encouraged in my role, given every support to connect with management across the airport to support them through the chaplain's role.
Last question.
Yes.
Around the boundary of the airport would be churches and church ministers.
Yes. Yep.
Is there any kind of thought of getting other ministers involved with the chaplaincy scheme at the airport?
There has been a number who are volunteers and been on the list there, and I'm reconnecting with those. I've also made a connection through the Hume City Council, which is within the airport, falls within that vicinity, and connecting through into a very dynamic, multicultural, multi-faith community. And so I'm still doing that, building relationships and referral to those who I can't serve, I suppose, within my denominational allegiances and to support other faiths, and that's been interesting to make those connections already.
Well, we want to say God bless you, my friend.
Thanks very much.
And we hope it goes really, really well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for watching another edition of Good Morning Southern Territory. Can I just remind you of the address, which is www.facebook.com/Oz Leadership. See you again. Bye-bye. God bless.